You know what this is? This is monumental architecture. The same thing that makes us do this for religious buildings make us do this for government buildings. It's pride of place, giving it an importance, giving it literally a gravity. There's much more economical ways to put together a structure. We could go any number of other places in this town, and I could show you something that serves the same function for a small fraction of the cost, have it up in a small fraction of the time. You could create a building roughly this size that would serve the same function, and even if you had to replace it every 20 years, you could still do that for less money than it would take you to build this building today. And yet we do it anyway. And we do it because our civilizational structures are the next step beyond what our religious structures are. We establish a shared system of values, and then we externalize that into something more scalable. If history has taught us anything, spreading your religion usually requires displacing another if you want to do it at scale. And civilization is a way to take that to a logical next step, which is, okay, you can believe spiritually whatever you want, but here we're going to accept another system of shared values that is kind of a level above that, and we're going to codify that with laws and so on. Any town, really any town that's been around a while, you can go to the middle of it, and you're going to find, yes, those religious buildings, but you're also going to find buildings like this, which is fundamentally and in theory and practice, this is a pyramid. It's the same thing. The fundamental factor that is going to determine the endurance of a civilization or a society is the same factor that will determine the endurance of a religion or an art movement or a company or a family, any organization. And that fundamental determining item is informational coherence. If you look at, take for instance the United States. When they were forming the United States, they did it in a unique way. Not very many societies get the opportunity that we got in the United States to start from scratch with a clean slate. Usually it's more of a morphic thing. If you look at what they did, they looked at the structures that had existed prior to that, and they found the incoherent aspects and said, okay, how do we address that? A civilization or a society, a nation, whatever, it's going to come down similarly to those other things that I discussed, religion or art. It is going to be the factors that lead to more or less people having an affinity for the idea. If you tried to start a country, and that country was founded on things that subjectively don't make sense to people, they're not going to want to be a part of it. Any of those things require an agreement, either shared belief or shared acceptance of certain things over other things. That agreement requires participation. It's only going to be so effective beating it into people, which is why the United States has worked in a lot of ways better than many other systems, because beating it into people will really only get you so far. You need their buy-in. You need their participation. You need them to agree, yes, it is beneficial to all of us if we do it this way and not that way. Or you need certainly most of them to agree to that. Fundamentally, it's informational coherence. It's not just those things either. It's gravitation, it's strong nuclear bonds, it's electromagnetism. Those all fundamentally are down to informationally coherent structures versus structures more likely to decohere. That's the trick, are your civilizational structures enough to inspire the majority of the individuals to adhere to the program? Any group of people is going to have rules and laws and agreed upon or accepted structures of order. It's kind of funny, if the legal system works, somebody commits a crime, they go through a process, that process exists so that everybody, sometimes it's just the appearance of a process, that's less informationally coherent, but they go through a process because that process itself is what allows all the other members to say, oh, okay, there's an element of fairness here. And that element of fairness is what we all buy into. So, okay, somebody did something wrong, they're going to go through this process. Because that process exists, I can have trust in this organization because it means it's less likely that something bad will happen to me. Contracts work exactly the same way. Because we have a civil legal system, that means that I can write a contract with you and have a reasonable expectation that there is a way for you to be held to your word. Without those agreements, we wouldn't have anything that we have now. We wouldn't have anything that we have now. People wouldn't sell things to people on credit because how are they ever going to be paid? Which means you'd never build anything that somebody couldn't afford. On and on and on and on. Everything about what we have now in our society is built on those informational structures that everybody agrees to and adheres to. And they do that because the structure itself is crafted in such a way that people can have a confidence in it, that they're going to be dealt with fairly, they're going to be treated fairly. Money is the exact same thing. If you take, I went to the car wash yesterday, and they made change for me with, damn it. I went to the car wash yesterday and they made change for me with this guy, William Howard Taft from Ohio, President of the United States, a scumbag by most accounts. And there on the back of it, Statue of Liberty. So this is designed to instill confidence. This is an informational structure. This is not valuable. This is not worth anything except what someone else agrees the instilled value is. You can't do anything with this. I mean, if you had a chair that was wobbly, this might be the perfect product in many cases to keep it from wobbling. Other than that, you can't do anything with this. In fact, unlike coinage of the past, if you melted this down, probably there's many layers to this. The outer layer is shiny, the inside is something cheaper. You know, it's how it is now. The only thing that this is an agreement. And that agreement comes back to the informational structures in a place like this room. We all agree that we can put faith in this thing. Money is an informational structure entirely. That's all it is. Even the metals themselves, there might have been a time when metal was something you could consider to be valuable in a sense. But if you don't know how to melt it and form it and shape it and craft it into something useful, it's just like any other rock. Everything about this is information. This is a message being conveyed. The Statue of Liberty, representative of the United States, of freedom, of democracy, of fairness, of right, of good. My friend John Haught would call that rightness. It conveys rightness. And the reason that it does that is to support everything that this coin is holding. And this coin holds quite a lot. If you look at some of the Mayan city-states in South America, if you look at what a lot of historians and archaeologists are arriving at as far as why some of those civilizations kind of collapsed or dissipated, a lot of times it came down to this. They didn't have a good system for this. People couldn't go to work for somebody and have faith that they're going to be paid something valuable. The informational structure of how they assigned value to things was flawed, or it wasn't on a good solid foundation. But I've said, many times, and I believe it, how does the United States end? The United States as we know it ends when person A stops looking at this as a dollar's worth from person B. And I think we're probably closer to that than many people think. If you can envision such and such group or party says, we don't accept the results of that election. Well, that's a slippery slope. If the election can't be fair, and people are losing faith in institutions like this, they're throwing people in jail who disagree with them or whatever, it's not much further down the hill to this isn't worth much. You can't eat it. You can't plant it. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Good old William Howard Taft.